Yep.
Awesome.
Okay, so we're here live at Bar America, More Affected Minds. I'm interviewing Rosie. She's with BurnPit360.
BurnPit360.
Yeah, BurnPit360. They also got a BurnPit360.org is their webpage. So, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You just drove in from Corpus last night?
Yes, I'm glad to be here in San Antonio. This is my hometown, so it's always great to be back here.
So tell us a little bit about how you came about doing the BurnPit360.
Yeah, sure. So my husband was deployed to Camp Anaconda Balad and returned from there after a year tour.
Yeah, I've been there.
Right, with complications, respiratory issues, and after trying to seek care from DOD and VA, and really facing a lot of delay and deny, we ended up at Vanderbilt University seeing a lung doctor who diagnosed him with a progressive lung disease as a result of exposure to burn pits.
And that was outside of VA, right?
Right, correct. That was private care.
So did you have to come out of pocket on your own for that?
Yeah, yep, we did. I think the same issues my husband was facing almost a decade ago, a lot of veterans are facing now. A lot of the delay, the deny, the exposure to burn pits really is causing a horrible tragedy amongst veterans and amongst their families, in the health side and the financial.
Especially on the health side. I mean, it's been going on for so long. I mean, I don't know how many people already passed away from illnesses that we don't even know and that were never diagnosed.
Right, and just to give a little bit of history for you all that don't know what burn pits are. I mean, I'm sure everyone that served in the military knows what they are. Yeah. But the only reason that Balad has had the most coverage media-wise is because it served one of the largest burn pits at a fob. So that one was 10 acres plus in size. And although there were burn pits at practically every fob, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. That one was the largest in size. And so we're not taking away from the fact that there were burn pits at many fobs, and probably all. But that was the one of the largest.
Yeah, that's pretty big, because every time we flew in there or something, you can literally see it from the plane or the helicopter.
Yeah.
Like, there's always smoke. It's constant smoke.
Yeah, and so for those, just if you're didn't serve in the military and you're watching this podcast, these were open air pits that were dug in the ground at military installations in Iraq and Afghanistan, at several forward operating bases. And like here where we live, right, like we're here in San Antonio, all the trash that was segregated there at the FOB where you lived, and I'll bring up a good point, in the previous wars, they didn't have Subway, and they didn't have all these restaurants at the bases where you have so much trash to segregate and get rid of. Back in those days, there were metal trays, everything was metal, and it was washed. It wasn't thrown in a burn pit. So here at these fobs, you had tons and tons of trash doused with jet fuel, and we're talking about blown up Humvees, computers, tires, medical waste, unused pharmaceuticals, I mean, you name it.
Yeah, especially what I remember the most is the piss bottles. Because whenever we travel in big, 4 or more vehicles, and a 4-vehicle convoy is like, we hardly did that. It's usually like 10 vehicles or more, and you can't just stop and pee.
Right.
So where do those piss bottles go? They're either out the window or burn pit. So everything went to the burn pit. I remember our burn pit. Our burn pit was probably like a 30 by 30, and if you fell in it, you're done. Like, it was pretty deep.
Right.
And then we also had like a landfill of all the trash, and then they would gather it, and then we'll burn it a little bit at a time. We would always go to the burn pit. It was a way to get away from everything too.
Okay.
So it was kind of away from the fob, but we're still inside the fob. But it was also a place that we would hang out just to get away from all the other bullshit.
Wow.
So not knowing, the stuff we were inhaling was really, we didn't think about that stuff.
Right, right.
We didn't think about
I know that's, it's safe to say I can speak for my husband in that sense that for him, it wasn't an issue that crossed your mind. Like, you were there to serve your country and there to do your job. And but I don't want people to misconstrue is that it's not anything that all we're asking for at this point is for there to be accountability, right? And I know for any of you, Chris, I didn't serve in the military. I worked for the Department of Veteran Affairs for 23 years. So I don't know what it's like to set foot, you know what I mean, in war. I don't. But the motto we've adopted, which is, because it's a reality, it's like the war that followed us home.
Yeah,
this is a war that's has affected my family, it's affected my husband, and thousands, possibility of millions affected, right?
And who knows in what way it's affecting us too, because now we're getting all these cases of people committing suicide.
Right.
My friend recently committed suicide. We had a funeral Friday, from another suicide. It's like,
I'm so sorry.
It's like you can't figure out what's going on. And who knows? This could be a part of it.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that. For all of those that do follow BurnPit360 and hopefully now follow War Affected Minds, you have a Facebook page? Yep. Check out War Affected Minds. My husband just had a brain scan done, and it was performed by a company called Scan, and it's called the Q-Spec scan. And the scan was told to us by let me see what I'm trying to think of the soldier that told Jeff Dardia, who's a SF Special Forces. He's a huge advocate over at Operation Task Force Dagger, and he actually founded their soft health initiatives. And so anyway, this scan he told us about. It required us to fly to Denver, but they have locations in Texas and all over. The VA doesn't pay for it. That's what we're working on. Anyway, so on that note, after my husband had his brain scan done, it showed toxic brain injury with the possibility of it resulting from exposure to toxic chemicals such as burn pits.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you bring up the suicides, one, it's not just a delay and denial of health care and benefits, because that also drives them to a point of just giving up.
Yeah.
You lose your career, you lose your families. But then now, knowing that report that my husband has in his hand says toxic brain injury, what is it doing to his brain? I asked Jeff Dardia, that SF soldier, what does it mean? He said the injury from toxic exposure is similar to CTE, like the NFL football players.
Yeah.
So.
And then for me, like hearing that, and you get these guys committing suicide, guys and girls committing suicide, and then they take away their benefits because they committed suicide, but it should be considered an injury, and not that they committed suicide.
Not a punishment.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, they should still be getting benefits, and the family should still be getting benefits.
Absolutely.
But, how are they going to link it? And they're not going to try to link it because, that's money out of their pocket.
Well, I feel like it should be considered an instrumentality of war.
Exactly.
And
like they got hurt out there or died out there.
Absolutely. For our family, what I can say is, like, the way war has affected us is, my husband was he did active duty X amount of years, and then X amount of years was in the reservist capacity. 23 years total. For him coming back, losing his job as a state police, whether it was a state police or it doesn't matter if you worked at Lowe's, regardless.
Yeah.
Losing your job, losing your health function, that many times people just give up. You know what I mean? And that they shouldn't be penalized, the family, for for resulting in that kind of tragedy, like
definitely
suicide.
not. Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
So since your husband has gone through all this and you have gone through all this, so then y'all came up with this organization to help others.
Right.
So how long has it been going on? When did y'all start?
So 8 years ago we started, but the reason we've mentioned here in the media lately about it being a decade is that we met other advocates that were already lobbying Congress about the issue. Gold Star families that had taken this to the steps of Congress. So 8 years ago, we began the website. We started a registry. We lobbied Congress for a registry, which President Obama signed into law. and now it exists. But there are a lot of things that need to be fixed with the registry, and we don't really want to focus just on the registry. We want to focus on getting compensation benefits for the families now.
Definitely.
So on that note, I want to give a shout out to Congressman Castro from San Antonio, who is, drafting up a couple of pieces of legislation to help address those issues now. Because if we just focus on the registry, how does that help the person that's dying right now?
Exactly. You can just imagine how long it's going to take.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm glad somebody's pushing for it.
Yep.
Like I never thought I should push for this. But
No, absolutely. And we have also Congressman Gabbard, Tulsi Gabbard. We have Congressman Ruiz. And for us, I really want people to know, I know that people commenting, but same with mefloquine. Some of these brain injuries with PTSD, I think they're talking about the suicide.
Yeah.
People have talked about mefloquine in the past, right? But I want people to know that this is not a Republican or a Democratic issue. This is an issue of war, and an issue of like our war heroes being denied care and benefits in America's backyard. And I think I said this in the Fox interview the other day, right? Is now that these contractors have been let off so easily, which, that decision's been made after 10 years of fighting, now it lies in the hands of the members of Congress and the president.
Hopefully something will happen.
We wrote a letter, right, to the president, and that was covered in Fox News, and we will be releasing that letter here today. But yeah, like, what do you tell these families who are...
A lot of them don't even have a clue that a lot of soldiers don't even have a clue they're even affected.
Right.
Like you've been telling me about that 14-page thing you got. Mm-hmm. I say, hey, you need to go to the site, get this page, print it out, take it to your doctor.
Yes.
So I've been telling people since I met you. I've been telling people this. So
no, that's...
I need to do the same thing. So.
Exactly. So if y'all go to www.BurnPit360.org, you'll find a letter that's called the VA Environmental Training Letter. And that actually lists the dioxins that were detected in the air sampling. And it also talks about the areas of disease, your body that's impacted, what diseases it can cause.
Yeah, so hopefully people can figure out if they have any issues and they can't figure out what the problem is. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they can relate it and figure it out and get something out of it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that right now there is no specialized health care. You have to go to Vanderbilt University, Dr. Miller. You have to go to have a serum scan done in Colorado. Like, who has the money for that,
And what does something like that cost? What did it cost y'all?
Well, we used TRICARE for ours, and what we ended up paying was lodging because our travel was covered by Air Compassion for Veterans.
So another organization?
Another organization. So here we are where we have other nonprofits filling the gap in for what DOD and VA should be doing.
Exactly.
So it's unfortunate that we have to have nonprofits doing the job of DOD.
Pretty much people like us.
Yep.
Supporting each other.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yep. But how many are we going to lose to suicide in the meantime?
Too many.
Yep. I don't know if you're familiar with Daniel Summers, SOMERS. He committed suicide. His parents went public with his letter. It's on the internet. So if y'all, those of you watching, look up Daniel Summers. And in his suicide letter, he actually talks about him losing his abilities to just live everyday life because he just continued getting worse and worse and worse. And he felt like a burden and just a lot of things. But, his parents are on Facebook and they're huge advocates in Washington. I just think it's important for people to understand the back end of suicide, not just being about PTSD, but chemically induced related sometimes,
I mean, having an imbalance of anything could affect your health in so many ways.
Yes.
Especially mentally.
Yeah, so also check out Operation Task Force Dagger. It's a great site where they have a lot of information, health information.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's next for BurnPit360?
Yep. So I'm not sure how many of y'all saw the ruling from KBR that was announced on Thursday, I think. But our next steps are to urge Congress and ask the president to urge Congress to, grant Purple Hearts to those that have died as a result of exposure, because it's still an instrumentality of war. It's not.
Yeah.
Why is it any less? You know what I mean? Like these Gold Star families and widows and children, it makes it seem like their death was in vain.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be, We're asking for service connection and an establishment for a list of presumptives. We're asking that the caregiver program allow, not just, if they make it instrumentality of war, then it is a war-related injury. So then those people that are caregiving for those dying of cancer, brain tumors and all that, it allows them to caregive.
Because we were definitely healthy before we went to war. Because we get checked out, we can't even have a certain type of illness or anything to go to war. So we all know we were okay when we went.
Right.
So why is it any different?
Right.
So
your pre-deployment health assessments were
good.
Tip-top shape.
And then I got, like I was telling you, I had my post-deployment record, but we did it in a mass group when we came back from Iraq.
Sure.
And they said, okay, what's wrong with you? You have any issues? I go, these are my issues, blah, blah, blah. But I was already stop loss, so as soon as I got back, I left. So I didn't get to seek medical help at the time.
Okay.
So when I came back, I told them what I was concerned about at the time. And so I got all that documented. I took that today, it's not related to combat. I'm like, what do you mean it's not related? Yeah. Well, you didn't seek a PA or anybody or a doctor, so it doesn't count.
Yeah.
But it's all there.
Exactly.
It's all there.
I know from my husband, not having, he never missed a day. You can't. Okay. Okay, I'll call you in a little bit. Sorry. Oh, I didn't know. Hi, baby. Oh, my love. Like I said, he never missed a day of work before. He got deployed and then came back and has had over 200 medical visits since then.
Wow. That's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. A lot of medical care.
Man, 200.
Yeah.
How many were there? How many of them were come back later, come back later?
Yeah, a lot of those with the VA were. I know with the DoD, it was you don't qualify for these certain studies because you've been back too long. But the onset of the illnesses is happening years after, not right away. Yeah. So.
Like I was telling you, I was sick for mid-tour in Iraq. And so, I went to Iraq in 04-05. Me and my NCO got sick, same symptoms. And it stayed with me for almost 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And they could never figure it out.
Yeah.
And I did go to the doctor for that.
Oh, yeah.
And they still never could figure it out.
Even to this day. Yeah.
And then my mom found articles, and she was reading how soldiers have almost died from the same symptoms I had.
Yes.
And she would save it.
Yeah.
And then I ran into other people when I got into the reserves that said the same thing. Oh, I had the same issues. So.
Yeah, it's scary. I mean, I hired a doctor from Austin who's a toxicologist, and I showed her that VA letter that has all the chemicals that y'all were exposed to.
Yeah.
And what she said was anywhere between 1 and 20 years, many of these soldiers will develop a cancer. Who? You don't know. Because one person may have had a higher level of exposure than the other. You know what I mean? So you may have worked at the burn pits, the other person didn't. So it varies,
Well, hopefully I don't get cancer. I definitely don't want to go for that.
I know. It's a scary thing. It's just, I think if we spread the word and press Congress, and not just us, you here, so-and-so there. Like, this is like a national crisis within the military community. Everyone needs to be urging their member of Congress to do something.
Yeah.
You know, so definitely check out our website, check out our Facebook page, follow what we're doing. You know, we just open up a Warrior Support Center in Robstown, and so that center is our headquarters.
For y'all?
Yes, but it is also a center where veterans can come and learn about, you know, maneuvering the system, how to file a claim, how to access care, all those resources we're providing through the center. Everyone's volunteer, no one gets paid. You know, we're not grant funded, but we can definitely use the support. You know, if you feel it in your heart to make a donation so we can continue the work, go to our website, www.BurnPit360.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we definitely, like, we're talking about doing this every Sunday, and not just about burn pits, it's whatever other subject, and maybe bring some other people here and talk to them about what they're going through.
Yeah, for sure. I know there's a lot of events coming up, 4th of July, Veterans Day in November. You know, invite those veterans organizations that are around the area to come join us here and talk about what events are coming up.
Yeah, we can do that.
To allow us to spread the word on the issue, you know.
Yeah. So next Sunday we'll come back again and we'll talk some more, and then this time you can be ready and tune in. I know we're going live on her Facebook. I'm actually recording this, and next week we'll probably be live.
Yeah.
We'll go live next week on my YouTube page.
Yep.
And then I'm going to go ahead and put this on my YouTube page with all your links and whatever information we can, and we'll share that out too. So.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, thanks for having us.
No problem. So good to see you again.
Thank you.
And you can press stop recording over there.
Thanks.
And give this table back to them.
Yeah.